before you know it, he'd set the hook, and he would rip a 5-pounder right out of the water, swing it right in the boat, look at me and say, "That's how you get it done, son."
Ever wonder what it'd be like to hit the tournament trail and fish with Elite Series anglers? It's time to find out on episode 61, brought to you by reelsandtackle.com.
Welcome to the Telltale Fisherman Podcast, where avid anglers share the story of their best fishing day ever to inspire yours. Now it's time for another epic adventure. So here's your host, John Woodson.
Okay, welcome to today's show. Our guest is Kyle Jenkins, who's coming to us from the Northeast, which I think is finally warmed up by now. It's middle of May, and Kyle, hope you're thawed out and all is going well for you up there. How you doing, man?
John, it's nice to talk to you. It is. It's warming up. We're finally, leaves just bloomed like within the last week. We got flowers, we got leaves. We got 65-degree water temps, and some of the smaller ponds we're even spawning in right now. So it's exciting, and everything's coming to life.
Oh, yeah. So those fish are finally shaking off their shivers and getting ready to eat something, I guess.
Oh, man. Yeah, I was just finding them the other day, pre-spawn in some of the bigger lakes. And you know how they are. They're just as fat as can be and just hungry, footballs in their bellies.
Yeah, well, we had a kind of a weird winter down here in Florida this year. A lot of colder days that we don't normally have, and I think it kind of I don't know that it messed the spawn up, but it sort of changed it around, and somehow I seem to have missed it this year. So I'm envious that you guys still have a spawn going on and can get after some of those bigger fish. Yeah. Well, good deal. Well, before we jump off into the fishing, then let's just have you tell us a little bit about you and what you do.
Cool. As you know, my name's Kyle Jenkins. I lifelong dream of being a professional bass fisherman.
Nice.
It started way back, little kid. I still got pictures of me with not even a real fishing set, just the toy one that you catch them on the kitchen floor.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up in Rowley, Massachusetts. My father bought a house on a small pond where I'd be out there all the way till 9 o'clock at night during the summers, just catching sunfish and horn pout and little catfish and what there was for bass in there, and just always had the love for it.
Cool.
It was first kayak at 7 years old, and I would paddle all over every lake I could get on just to go fishing all day.
Mm-hmm.
Then 7 years old, I remember. I might have been a little bit younger, maybe 5 or 6. I remember we were up at our camp up in New Hampshire, and my father, we were on the beach, and my father, he told me, he goes, I'm fishing, and he's relaxing, and he goes, "Hey, cast over by those lily pads. The big fish are always, by the lily pads."
Mm-hmm.
I remember he put his hat down over his head, and he falls asleep, and before you know it, I use a tent caterpillar, and I put him on the hook, and I catch myself a little, 2.25 pound fish, and I remember waking my dad up. Dad, I got one. And from there, that's the day that I really put together, fish around structure and cover. And I remember that probably is one of my best lessons. They hit me at that age, and from there, New England, especially we're always up in Maine, New England, we got the lily pads and stuff, and just always loving to fish around vegetation. And So from that age, 12 years old, I got a 14-foot John boat, rigged it up for bass fishing, used that for a couple of years, upgraded to a little bass tracker. Always wanted to fish the tournaments, and how money is in high school. It's between a car and a boat, and so I could never do them during high school. I remember my junior year of high school, I wanted to go to college, and I wanted to fish. Specifically, I was looking at University of Central Florida. It just looked like a good bass program, good location
right.
down by you,
Yep.
full of lakes. And this will come back around later, but I remember I actually Facebook stalked the guy that was the president of the program, and I said, his name was Miles Berghoff, and I said, I got all the info from him, asked him all the questions, wanted to do it. Anyway, I ended up, I didn't go to college. I ended up wanted to follow my brothers into law enforcement. They both said, "Hey, you want to be in law enforcement? You got to join the military." So I picked the Coast Guard. It's the best one to do law enforcement. So ended up going in the Coast Guard at 17. I spent a year and a half in San Diego, where I really kind of lost my fishing. I had sold the boat because of the move, and and I was out there for a year and a half. We were deployed all the time, going down to up to Alaska, where I got to do a little bit of fishing, but only for 3-day port calls. And then we'd go all the way down to South America, and we would do the drug and the immigrant interdictions. From there, got stationed in Virginia for a school to become a mechanic. I was there for a couple months. That's where I met my wife and took her up to Connecticut. 4 years later, we're in Connecticut, got ourselves a little coming up on 15-month-old girl, and about to make a move down to Texas.
Oh, how cool. A lot of big changes there.
Oh, definitely, yeah. And once I got it back to Connecticut, into New England, we got back to being able to go up to Maine and use my father's boat or kayaks, and bought another boat again. I got back into it in that fishing sense that left me while I was, on a ship for so long out in California, came right back. And, from there I said, okay, I don't have the college, but, when a guy wants to make it to the major leagues, he needs to go in the farm division. So, so I did my farm divisions. I did 2 years, fishing the Bassmaster Opens as a co-angler.
Okay.
My first year I did the Centrals. Now, actually, that's a funny story too. One day I'm on Facebook, and this old friend, Miles Berghoff, who is going to show me the ropes at University of Central Florida, he's looking for a co-angler for the Open. So I go, I email him, or I message him. I go, hey, tell me about the Opens. I don't know much about a co-angler. Tell me about it. So he gives me all the info, and before you know it, we fished the Bassmaster Central the first year. We had 2 stops in Louisiana, and a stop in Oklahoma.
Okay.
And we're spending during a Bassmaster Open event, you generally practice for 3 or 4 days, and then the tournament is 2 days and 1 more day if you're in the top 12.
Okay.
So I got to practice with Miles for 3 days, and then come tournament time, you're with a random fisherman each time. So I really got to learn everything from Miles, and then during those 2 days of random fishing, I got to fish with college anglers. I got to fish with Elite Series guys. I even got to fish with a guy that won the Bassmaster Classic in 1974. His name is Tommy Martin. But,
wow! Yeah.
Yeah, it was neat. And then we did that for a year, and I went from there, and we fished the Southerns last year. The Southerns, we went to Florida on the what was that? The Harris Chain. We also went to Tennessee to the Lake Chickamauga, and then we also went to Smith Lake in Alabama. Yeah. So I really got to diversify away from just the clear waters of New England and get down and see some muddy Louisiana water. I got to see that stained Florida water, and then that crystal clear, rocky Smith Lake, Alabama water with the spotted bass, which is just all eye-opening, So this move coming up is just exciting me because it wasn't my first pick. I'd want to stay near family, but I told myself if I'm not going to be near family, I need to go somewhere that's warm, where I can fish all year and diversify my fishing even more so. So I actually got a Coast Guard station down in Port Arthur, Texas, looking at living up towards right in between Toledo Bend and Sam Rayburn. So I think I think this will do it. I'll have 4 years down there where I could fish year-round and really take everything I learned from fishing as a co-angler and learning from these pros, applying it, and just going as far as I can go from here.
Right, and you can also sneak in a little bit of saltwater fishing that is going to be different than what you've been used to up there in the Northeast, for sure.
Oh, that's right. I mean, I'd love to get out there in the Gulf of Mexico a little bit, or even the closer land stuff. I believe the red fishing is great down there and throughout Louisiana, and I'm just excited to experience all these different new fish other than the typical New England striper, largemouth bass, smallmouth bass. So I am looking forward to it, and I just got to keep telling myself I got to keep focusing on bass. I got to keep focusing on bass fishing. the other stuff's fun, but I got to focus on the one, you know?
Right. So that's really cool that you've gotten to travel all over and fish all of these different famous lakes, really, doing that Bassmaster Open. Tell me which of the lakes really called to you, you know, which ones you really liked and which ones you struggled with and for what reasons?
Okay, so ones I really liked, I really liked, my first one was in Muskogee, Oklahoma on the Arkansas River.
Okay.
It was my first time seeing this muddy water. I'm like, oh my God, you dip your hand in it and it's gone. You know, it's
Yeah.
like chocolate milk out here.
Yeah.
So, and there was some, you know, I was, especially my first one, my eyes were wide open, my mouth was wide open. I was just like, oh my God, there's Greg Hackney and Jason Christie. We're in Jason Christie's backyard, and here he is, and it just amazed me. And you know, meeting Miles, because I watch Miles' TV shows. He has a TV show called Sweetwater TV. So seeing him in person, and I was just amazed. I'm going to spend a week with him and a couple other fishermen. It's going to be amazing. So I loved that one. You know, that muddy water, I learned about the big spinner baits, you know, the big Colorado blades,
Yeah.
a lot about flipping a jig into those cattails, and it was my first one. I wish it almost didn't happen, because I got a top 40 in my first one, and I was like, this is easy. I can do this. and then the next one came, and I learned. I got that humble pie. So it was that was one of my favorites. You know, it was a tough tournament for co-anglers, because everyone was basically flipping. I mean, I remember going down a creek, and I'd see all these Elite Series fishermen, and we were the last boat headed down it. And I only needed like one fish for 3 pounds to know I'd make the cut. And I'm fishing behind all these guys, and I flip, I catch one, and I was like, oh my God, this is it. You know, it's just a 2-pounder, but this is all I needed. And I ended up going the rest of the day without a fish, but I made a check, and I was like, oh my God, I can actually do this. So that kind of gave me the eye opening of doing it. But from there, the Louisiana tournaments were tough. The Red River was extremely hard. I think on the pro side, who won it? Alton Jones Jr. won it on like 33 pounds for 3 days. It might have been 33, 35 pounds. So it was very tough even on the pro side.
Yeah.
And it was a grind. I mean, it was hard to stay focused for 8 hours. I forgot what a bite felt like, you know?
Yeah.
I would set the hook on a stick, because I totally forgot what they felt like. So that was very tough. Went down to another one in Louisiana on the Chafalaya Basin, which is absolutely gorgeous. That was a fun one. That's where I got to fish with Tommy Martin. At the time, he was 74 years old.
Wow.
He won the Bassmaster Classic in 74. And that also opened one of my lessons I took from him was he would shut off that boat engine, and he would be up, trolling motor in the water, before I had my rod untwisted from all my other rods. And it was just the speed at which these pros have, and he also opened my eyes to the accuracy of casting. He was actually telling me that he fished, he was always righty. His right shoulder went bad. I might be wrong if it was right or left, but his right shoulder went bad. And then he said, you know what? I need to learn how to cast with my left hand. So he learned. And he really opened my eyes to, you need to be able to hit every target, and you should be able to do it righty, lefty, you know, over the shoulder, roll cast, flipping, whatever you're going to do, you need to be accurate. Because if you can put that lure where other people haven't, you're going to catch them. So
wow.
That was my big lesson from that trip. Now, mind you, all these trips, I'm driving in a 2004 Honda Accord coupe. My rods are going right over my shoulder, and I'm driving 1,500 miles there, 1,500 back. It just absolutely, looking back on it, even though I was only 2 years younger than I am now, I was like, oh, psycho, what was I even thinking? But you know what? That's another thing I put together was, when you love something, you know, like bass fishing or hunting or race car, whatever it might be, if you love it that much, you're going to do it, and you're going to find a way to succeed at it. And and that's what I'm finding, and I'm realizing, like, man, I can go out there and I can fish for 12 hours, go to sleep, and fish again the next day for 12 hours. If I love something this much, how can I not succeed at it? You know, whether it's 10 years out, 2 years out, or 20 years out, how can I not learn enough to succeed at it? So
right.
That was my first year as a co-angler, as a wrap. Year number 2 on the Southerns, which I was very excited for, because I knew big bass, Tennessee, Lake Chickamauga. Lake Chickamauga was a blast. That was, I got to fish with Bobby Lane on one of the days.
Oh, nice.
That was amazing. So fish with Bobby Lane, and that's what I was wondering is, okay, I got Bobby Lane today. He's a good fisherman. Does that mean I'm not going to catch any, or does that mean I'm going to catch 100?
Right.
Is he going to put me around fish, or is he going to suck them all up? So we went out, and right away, he starts throwing a topwater spook. I throw a jerkbait. I catch my 3. One thing amazing about this was, I believe it was 16 inches, or I think it was 16 inches for a keeper bass at Lake Chickamauga. It was 16 or 14, which, down in Florida, it's 12. Up here in New England, it's usually 12. And I was like, man, a 14 or whatever it was, 16-inch or 15-inch bass, that's a good size. That's like, pound and a half, pound 3/4.
Yeah.
But, so we're out there, and I'm like, man, I hope I catch a limit. It was like 3 casts, 3 fish, all on a Rapala jerkbait, and one of my funny stories comes from this. We're catching fish, and I'm measuring them and making sure I'm calling out the right one, and I throw one back, right? And Lake Chickamauga is known for 10, 12, 14-pound fish, and just extremely aggressive and extremely healthy. And I knew it going in because I had watched every visitor video there was on YouTube, and I grab this one fish. It might have been undersized, and I throw it back, turn around. All of a sudden, I'm like, what was that? And I look, the bass had jumped out of the water and back into the boat. Landed right. It was right there on the carpet. I go, Bobby, I just threw him back. He jumped back in. It was the craziest thing, I'll tell you.
Not one of the smartest fish ever, was he?
It was crazy, but it just went to show how muscular. You look at these fish, and they look like a football player compared to some of these other bass you catch. They're just they got the belly on them, they got the shoulders on them. It's amazing. But we spent a lot of the day. That was in April and last year, I believe, and we spent a lot of the day. He was finding fish on beds, and which as a co-angler is your nightmare because he's on a bed. What do I do? So I just kept fan casting out, and I was casting out a little wacky rig Senko, and I was still putting them in the boat. They weren't big ones, but it was just like, this fishery is amazing because, I'm not casting any specific structure, but I'm still catching them. And meanwhile, when he was catching me, we'd say, 45 minutes an hour on one bed. And before you know it, he'd set the hook, and he would rip a 5-pounder right out of the water, swing it right in the boat, look at me and say, "That's how you get it done, son," with that southern accent. And I was just like, oh my God, this is scary when this guy catches a fish. It was absolutely amazing to see how he worked, and collectively as all these pros worked. Our other one, Lake Harris, or Harris Chain, down in Florida, again, practicing with Miles Berghoff. During practice, we had about probably 5 guys in this one big house we rented. And my goal for these 2 years of co-angling was I need to surround myself with fishermen that when you surround yourself with people of the same interest, it'll rub off onto you, and you'll become a better whatever it is you're trying to get better at. If you want to become, very good at hunting, surround yourself with hunters. I put that together with fishing. I need to surround myself with them. So one night we're sitting there, and it's probably 7 o'clock at night. Sun's going down. We're watching TV, and we're all rigged up for the next day, and 2 guys come walking in, and they're talking, and I'm looking at these guys. I'm like, these guys look so familiar. Who are these? And I stand up and shake their hands. It's oh, I'm Robbie, and I'm Gerald. Nice to meet you. And they sit down, and hey, you mind if we grab a drink? Absolutely. So they grab one of my sodas, and we're sitting there and we're talking, and I'm looking at these guys like, who are these guys? And at this point, I've watched every YouTube video there is, and I'm sitting there, and I pull open my phone, and I start searching. I go, Bassmaster Elite's, roster, and I start scrolling through, and I'm like, oh, there's one, because they got the pictures right next to the name. And I'm sitting there, and there's Robbie Latuso on one side of me, and Gerald Swindle on the other side of me, both new to the Elite Series, and here I am talking to them, and I'm like, and then that's when the starstruck set in, and I'm like, oh my God, here they are. So here we go, and you never want to bother the guys with too many questions. You still want to be, you got to be cool, you got to be their friend, So I'm trying to refrain as much as possible from asking questions, but like I said, I was surrounding myself with high caliber fishermen that, just being around the conversations, past events, I got to learn everything I can. So I think I did a pretty good job at it. That tournament, I got to fish with Matt Lee. I put 3 in the boat with Matt Lee, which I was very proud of. And that was just awesome. Getting to talk to him, about it, talk a little bit about his brother, but again, not too much. And and it was just an amazing thing to be able to see how they work, because they can't hide anything from you when they're 18 feet from you. You get to see all the little tricks, and again, just fishing with these guys, especially after they've free fished for 3 or 4 days, it's just absolutely scary, because we'll be doing 75 miles an hour. I think he had a Legend at the time, a Legend bass boat. We pull into this creek, everyone else is flying by us, and I'm like, well, if everyone else is flying by us and we're pulling in here, hopefully we're on something. We come in, he swings 4 into the boat before I even get 5 casts off. And it was just amazing. It was just the way they work with the speed, and that's just what I'm trying to replicate now. From there, I remember we end up going into the back of a marsh. I threw a fluke around everywhere, and I ended up catching 3. I caught 3 the next day with a man named Will Hardy. Will Hardy is the owner of Greenfish Tackle company that's exploding right now. And he was actually in 2017's Classic because he won 2016's Open on Lake Oneida.
Oh.
Yeah, so that was pretty neat. Brand new skeeter boat, and that was the lesson I took from him. There's 2 stories from him. First, the lesson I took from him was, I was talking to him, and when you fish with some guys, they'll talk to you the whole time. Some guys, they don't want to talk to you till they get on them, and some guys don't like to talk much at all. So Will liked to talk, which is awesome. So I'm asking him every question, and the biggest thing I took from him, and not only as a fisherman, but as a major business owner, was social media. Like he said, he goes, you can, it's all about, especially to pay your way through, a lot of social media. You got some guys that can do it off of winnings, but most of it comes from, brands and sponsors, you working for them, advertising, promoting their products, and being able to earn money from them to pay for these events, because they are not cheap. So from there, that was the one where I got home from that. That was a flight. I was lucky enough, I took a Southwest flight. I didn't drive all the way down to that one. So I get home and I say, you know what? I need to get social media. I think that's a big part of it, especially while I'm young. I can grow it. And from there, I did my own little, I'd say I went to college for Instagram. I was looking up everything, what the best times of day are to post, what the best filters are. I learned that people are more apt to like a picture with a lot of blue in it. That's a pretty weird fact, but it was. I just took that and I said, you know what? I need to make a social media, and that'll only help me with being able to teach people and being able to have brands see me and start getting my name out there, so I can do things like interviews and YouTube seminars and stuff like that. So that was one of the major things I took from that event. And then our last event was on Smith Lake in Jasper, Alabama. We rented out a beautiful cabin with a group of guys. Again, just being able to surround myself with experienced veterans of bass fishing. I got to, again, practice for 3 days with Miles. And down there, it's the spotted bass are unlike anything else. I thought they would relate like a smallmouth bass, but a spotted bass is, they're chasing these blueback herring around. They don't really, when we were finding them, they were just everywhere. They'd pop up 80 feet from you, then they'd be 800 yards away from you, then they'd be underneath your boat, and it was just very hard to find them. If you've never been to Smith Lake is a gorgeous, gorgeous lake. I mean, every house there looks like a Bass Pro Shops. They're all on these cliffs.
Oh, wow.
All the houses are probably at least 40 to 100 feet high off the water. It was an extremely deep lake. You could touch the bluff wall with your fishing rod, and you'd be in 180 feet of water, no problem, which is just absolutely insane. And it was very clear. I mean, obviously you couldn't see the bottom because it was so deep, but that was probably my toughest event because, one, they were either, the elite guys were targeting floating docks, which is tough to follow up on, especially in deep water like that, because there's no real docks with pilings. They're all floating docks. So a lot of your bass would be suspended right up underneath them. And if they were going to hit, typically it's just tough to get your lure where these elite guys couldn't, because on day one, I fished with Marty Robinson, which was another Elite Series guy. It was just absolutely just amazing to be able to fish with him. Again, the way he worked fast, the way he hit every target, wasn't backlashing, just the efficiency of this caliber of anglers was just amazing. So that was probably my toughest. I learned a couple new things, spy bait technique, very slow, you count it down 10, 20 seconds, reel it in really slow, and then the spy bait's made by Realis, I believe, and it just shimmies just enough, and it's got these props, and I've never seen one before, but man, I threw it till my arm was sore. And then, and plus, I almost lost my brain waiting for that thing to wait 20 seconds before I could start reeling. So that was a painful one for me, but at least we had beautiful mountains and beautiful houses to look at. I got to meet my idol, Gerald Swindle, at a gas station. I ran into him, and I've watched all his speech. One of his speeches, he's in front of a tank, and I've probably watched that on YouTube. If he has a couple thousand views, I probably have half of them, because I'm just always listening to very motivational on the way to and from these events. I would listen to him because, just the motivation he puts into it, and the energy is just amazing. So, I just left Bass Pro Shops. I got a tournament tomorrow. I listened to it on the way up. It just gets you, just gets your blood flowing and ready, and it's just, he's a real good guy to meet, real down to earth. And, I just had to meet him while I was there. And that's his hometown too. He lives right in Jasper, I believe. And he would be able to go to his house at night. Yeah. So
that's a big plus, getting to sleep in your own bed.
Oh yeah, definitely. And it's, that was basically, my, hey, this is going to be my farm league. I'm going to go from the back of the boat, absorb everything I can from these guys, watch every YouTube video, read every book, get on Bass Resource. From there, because I've worn out YouTube, I'm now on Bass University, just trying to watch everything. And now I'm starting with some weeknight tournaments on the front of my own boat. I got a high schooler on the back learning from me now, and now it's time for me to make my own decisions, fish these, and then midway through the season I moved to Texas, and down on Sam Rayburn and Toledo Bend, from what I see, there's a tournament every weekend. So, so I'm going to gain a lot of experience. We just got our boats in the water within the last month, and I'm never going to take it out of the water up, or I should say down there.
That's it.
So my season will be extended. Those lakes you can deep crank, you can fish shallow, you can, I'll be able to become more versatile. And that's one thing Matt Lee taught me was, I asked him, we were talking about his brother Jordan, and he just won his first classic, and as you know, he just won his second, but, which is amazing. But, talking to Matt Lee, he was telling me, he goes, my brother won the classic, amazing and stuff. We were just, our family's just absolutely in awe. And he was telling me a little bit about his childhood, because I always ask these pros, I would never ask them, how do you catch fish? I'd ask, how did you learn how to catch fish? Was it videos? What'd you do? And Matt told me that him and Jordan they were fortunate enough, they grew up in northern Alabama, and northern Alabama has your shallow muddy lakes all the way to your deep clear water lake.
Yeah.
And so Matt and Jordan would watch everything on YouTube, read the books, read about drop shotting. They would go try it. They'd read about this, they'd go try it. And they would just, within 20 minutes, be able to hit all these lakes. And he told me, he goes, I thought I was going to be a baseball player. I took baseball on, and I loved it, so I played baseball in high school while Jordan fished. And he goes, and as you can see now, Jordan is, he's just so good at bass fishing because of those 4 years where he fished while I was still playing baseball. And that kind of put in my mindset, that along with Tom Brady's series of videos, because I'm a big Tom Brady fan. He would they both said, you need to be willing to give up things to be great at specific things. So that's where I put in, hey, I'm invited to play golf this weekend. You know what? Hey guys, sorry, but I'm gonna go fish. I'm gonna fish because there's no limit to how much you can fish, and there's other kids out there fishing every day, fishing after school, fishing after work, and I need to put in that much time. And fortunately, my schedule in the Coast Guard allows me to do that. I get I work 2 days on, 2 days off, so I'm allowed to fish a lot. My wife allows me to with the little baby, and
even better.
Before you know it, yeah, exactly. She's got a Barbie pole just waiting until she's big enough to throw it. So
there you go.
She'll be out there too, and especially down in Texas, I'll put a little bimini top on so she doesn't get sunburnt, and we'll be out there fishing. So
there you go. She'll be your co-angler soon.
Oh yeah, you know it. So and that's the thing is the girls, they have a better mind for attention to detail, so she might end up whooping my butt someday.
Very well might, yes. You better watch out. Cool,
exactly, man. Yeah.
All right. Well, when we get back, Kyle is going to share one of his most epic freshwater fishing days with us, so stay tuned. Our merch shop is now open for business. We have shirts, stickers, and much more, all sporting our signature Microfish logo, or tons of other cool fishing designs from independent artists, and all at great prices. Go to www.tell.fish/merch to check it out. All right, we are back with Kyle Jenkins, and we've already been talking about some pretty epic fishing with all the pros he's gotten to fish with and all the amazing and famous lakes he's gotten to fish on doing the Bassmaster Open. And that's pretty epic in and of itself. But now we're going to have him tell us about his most epic day of fishing. So just kind of tell us, what you're doing and, what you were fishing for that day.
All right. Well, one day, my dad's girlfriend, she has a lake house up in Maine, a little lake called Lake Cochnawagon, Monmouth, Maine, and we're out there, I was, again, I'm applying everything I'm learning from Bass University and YouTube, and it's fall, so I'm trying to figure out water temps, and I'm out there, and I'm out there, and I spot something on the sonar, so I circle back around. I'm only in about 10 feet of water, and I spot a little school, and I'm learning my fish finders. These are new. I got Humminbird Helix that I just got.
Okay.
I'm out there, and I look, and they're coming up. I go, ooh, I think those look like bass. Here we go. So I back off, and I start fishing for them, and I'm throwing a deep diving crankbait, 10 feet of water. It's probably a 10 or 14 foot diving crankbait, and as soon as I start reeling it down, and as soon as it probably gets down to the depth of the fish, boom, I set the hook on a fish. It's probably a 2 1/4. So I'm like, oh, this is awesome. I throw it in the live well just for pictures,
Yeah.
So I back off. I get repositioned again. I throw back out there. Crank down. Boom, set the hook. 2 3/4. All right, this is cool. Throw them in the live well. Get reset. Wind's blowing me around. But I throw one more time and I catch a 3 1/2.
Wow.
And it was just, it may not be the biggest fish, but it was one of those days where just everything started coming together. So I worked my way out of the spawning flat. I proved that they're not up there feeding. I worked my way out deep, didn't find them deep, found them in that middle ground, and I really just put together what I learned and proved to myself that, hey, I can find them. I can take everything I learned from fishing the opens, from fishing from watching everything online, reading the books, and here I am. I set the hook into 3 good fish, and it was just amazing to put it together, catch 3 chunks. I got a video up on Instagram, my 3 good reasons for using a Jenko crankbait. So I pull each one out, and I show them, and it was just more than just the fish, and being able to almost call my shot on it was just me looking up in the sky and going, oh my God, I got it. I just put it together, So that was probably one of my most epic days for learning. Recently, I caught last year I was in South Carolina for a school at the Coast Guard. Caught myself, a couple 5 1/2. Meanwhile, I was in a 10-foot John boat because I had to put it in the back of my truck to drive down there. 10-foot John boat with 12-foot gators. So it was
right.
That was a blast. That was a blast down there too. Just be able to catch those 5s, which which I've never had, especially smallmouth fishing. You don't have as much of an opportunity to catch those 5+ pound fish.
Yeah.
Yeah, so one of my other funny stories takes me back to when I was little. Being from the North Shore of Massachusetts, there's a lot of tuna fishermen and mostly a lot of striper fishermen for the recreational side. And so I was surrounded by that, and I was the weird one that liked to go, pond fishing, and all the guys, you're catching our bait, giving me some, giving me some talk. So I end up, I'm about 7 years old. Me and my father, my brothers, my mother, we take my father's boat out, and we go striper fishing all day long. And, we probably didn't catch anything. And we pull in, and, typical Saturday night at a New England boat ramp, it's full of people, and there's a line. And my dad backs the trailer down. We get the boat on, and we're pulling up out of the ramp, and all these people, they're hooting and hollering, and they're laughing and pointing at our boat. And I'm like, what's going on? I'm 7 years old. I'm on the dock still with my life jacket on, and I look over, and they're saying that we caught a fish. And I'm like, no, we didn't. We didn't catch any fish. And we look, and on the prop is about a 3-foot line with a hook on it, with about a 15 or 16-inch schoolie striper hanging from it, alive, flopping around. And we're dumbfounded at, first of all, how do we cut somebody's line? And second of all, how do we cut somebody's line with a live fish still on it, flopping around? And of course, we hooked it and threw it back, and it was just the craziest thing. I've never heard of that happening. Running over a line with a live fish, pulling up on the boat ramp, and here he is dangling from the prop was just amazing. I thought that was one of the funniest stories I've ever seen.
Oh yeah, so that fish was being pulled behind the boat for who knows how long.
Who knows? It could have been a couple hundred yards or a couple miles, but that fish was alive and kicking, and it was just the craziest thing to see. I've never heard a story like that before. I bet that fish was thinking the same thing. This is the craziest thing I've ever experienced. Getting dragged behind a boat. That's no ride at Disney World. No, absolutely not. Wow, man. Jeez, yeah. So that was just crazy, but yeah, overall, I from all my fishing, being able to fish the co-angler as a co-angler in the opens. I've been able to gain some sponsors. Hooked on Lips is a fishing community on Facebook, Instagram. I believe they have a Snapchat opening up, it's awesome because they do. I've been doing some seminars on there. I've been doing some Lucky Tackle Box, box openings, being able to explain what's in them because I get a free box from Lucky Tackle Box each month. Then also, it's a community where you can go in and ask questions, and there's just guys from all over the country that it's not just bass fishing, it's trout, it's saltwater, it's everything, and fly fishing. So that's one of those learning resources I have. Some of the other sponsors I was able to gain is Hayes Camp Outdoors, which is Nathan Hayes Camp's a kid up in Montana who makes his own lures, and he airbrushes and just makes these absolutely amazing jerk baits, crank baits, and just does a great job with them. Yeah, and then a couple of my other sponsors, Star Jigs. Alan out of Missouri makes his own jigs. Now he's going to chatterbaits, and now he's going to spinner baits and buzz baits, and again, all these guys are they've been able to test out their gear and try it out, and it just helps so much having them behind me with these tournaments and being able to not have to go to Bass Pro Shops and spend $200 like I just did every single time. It is awesome. Bass Pro knows how to make $100 bills disappear faster than most any other place I know of. Oh, I'll tell you. I mean, between these, new electronics, new trolling motors, just the wires for these electronics just cost me $120. So it's just absolutely insane. But you know what? when you love it this much, I'll cut back on the dirt biking, I'll cut back on the golfing, I'll cut back on everything, in order to chase this dream.
Sure enough. So, in speaking of chasing the dream, so you said that the next step is fishing, front of the boat in the club tournaments. Are you still going to do some of the opens as a co-angler, or what's the plan?
If they come down to Sam Rayburn, Toledo Bend, also in Orange, Texas, there's the Sabine River. If they come down towards that way, I will. I think for now, I'm going to do my own tournaments on my own, but it would be, and they come to those lakes almost every year. So It would be absolutely amazing to see how the Elite Series guys find the fish on them and find, the patterns of them on these new lakes. One thing that I have to say about co-angling is it's about $425 to get in, and then your traveling fees for me, which is a lot. I was going from Connecticut to all these southern destinations, and then all your expenses. It is expensive, but the one thing that I put together on it was it's a week-long guided trip with a new pro every day, with a chance at winning your money back or more. You can win a $30,000 boat, or if you come in the top 40, you'll win your money back. So you can't beat it, because if you go out and take a guide's going to be $400 a day, and you're not going to win anything back on that day. So I highly recommend the Opens as a co-angler. It's just, absolutely just hands down my favorite fishing time of my life. It was just awesome. And again, if they come down that way, even into Louisiana, I know Louisiana's tough right now with some of the laws they're battling, but I think it will be very, very good for me to get on a pro's boat in some of my new home waters.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I know you're looking forward to learning those waters and applying some of the things you've learned elsewhere. And I'm looking forward to following you on Instagram here over the next few months as you do, and seeing some great things to come.
Yeah, absolutely. And for anybody out there, my Instagram's Kyle Jenkins Bass Fishing. There's a little underscore between each word. But John, I just thank you for letting me come on the show. And that was a good time. And thank you very much. I hope I got to show some people a little bit different of a side of bass fishing with the co-angler side. And everybody, get out there, fish, and have a blast with it.
Absolutely. And it was a pleasure having you on. Thanks, Kyle.
Absolutely, John. Well, you take care. Have a good one.
Don't forget to visit tell.fish/gear to get our recommendations on gear that will take your angling adventures to the next level and help make you the next Telltale Fisherman.
This has been the Telltale Fisherman Podcast. Thanks for sharing another great tale with us. Be sure to check out the show notes page for more info on today's show and the gear we talked about. Keep those lines tight, and we'll catch you next time right here on the Telltale Fisherman Podcast.